Okay, today's content, we're going to talk about sports and the media, and could they survive without each other, is what we'll be discussing. So, this is nothing new. These are things that the media provide us as consumers, viewers, information, many different ways to do that, interpretation of events, entertainment, and then opportunities to interact with the content, with a sporting event, many other areas that are allowed for us to interact with. So this is one of the main points I want you to understand. You know, I'm sure that most of you understand this already. But when you're watching an event, you have to understand that there's an editor somewhere who is representing, the images, the messages that they see fit for us as viewers watching on television to consume. And those decisions are based on, you see, there could be one or more of these goals down here. A lot of what we talk about is power. So there's that influence there of cultural values. We talk about making money, so that you see the profits there. And it could be to provide a public service to a community. They want to enhance status, reputation of people, organizations, and then depending on what type of expression of self they want to portray of an individual or a group of individuals. So, here's an example. When we watch sports on television, especially think about your favorite sports program. What do they show? They show the top 10 plays of the night. They show the injuries. They show the buzzer beaters. It's the stuff that we as consumers want to see. It's just the highlights, the dramatic action that's in an event. So when you're actually at a sporting event, live in the stadium, in the arena, what you see and what's going on, the action around the event is quite different than when you're watching on television. Television has been great for the experience at home now. You don't have to go out in the elements if you live in a cold weather town, cold weather city to watch football, but you have to realize that what you're seeing on television is not all that is occurring in that stadium. It's being shaped by the producers, the cameraman in this instance. So power, there's that word that we talk about a lot in this course. Media, just like many of the other ideologies we discuss, power, wealth, this is what media is usually representing, the interest of those people who hold the power and the wealth in a society. In the media content, it's meant to highlight consumerism, individualism, competition, and class inequality. It seems to us who are consuming these messages as natural and necessary in our society because this is what is being portrayed to us from the corporations who are in control of the media. So characteristics of what could be coined the new media. With the advances in smartphone technology, social media, you're allowed to edit your own experience if you want to. You create your own reality. You can be at a sporting event and you can take a picture and send it to all your followers, whatever it may be. You can be part of the media experience. You're providing information, which is unlike any other time period in our history. If you play fantasy sports, think about the way that has changed the media's representation of sports. Some football coverages will show statistical fantasy leaders, who has the most yards, passing yards, rushing yards, whatever it may be. It has changed the media experience, fantasy sports has. Video games, this is something that touches close to, it sits close to my heart. I grew up playing video games, and most of the video games I played were sports video games. Not a lot of research out there on this topic, but here's some of the questions that need asked to find the answers to. Specifically, how are the video sport game experiences linked with other sport experiences, which advancements in technology are making the video game experience close to what it's like on a field, on a court, without having to go through, you don't have to train to be an elite athlete. You can kind of get a representation, and that might be kind of a bold statement. I don't think we're quite there yet. But that leads to that final point. Will virtual sports complement or replace sports as we know them today? So in the future, will that take the place? You have a lot of concussion issues in sports, especially football, and the lifelong impact that can have on you. We're going to get to a point where that's how we're conducting sports virtually. Just a thought. And I just talked about the advancing video game technology. The graphics and images are so close to being real life. They put bodysuits on these athletes and get them going through their normal motions. So when you're playing a baseball game, the swing, it closely imitates the actual athlete that you're using. And some children, they might not have access. And we'll talk a lot about this, the access limitations in certain communities with certain sports. Maybe this is a child's only exposure to a certain type of sport is through video games. And I know from personal experience, many of you might go through this. I used to have sports video game tournaments, and it's bragging rights with your friends. And then that last point, just like a live sporting event or going and watching it on television, it's a social experience for especially young males, getting together, doing these tournaments, playing video games. It's social in nature. So some questions, or the question, do sports depend on the media? The answer is no, when the players involved in it organize it, and the reason they're organizing the sport is for themselves. But sports do depend on the media if there's that commercial piece to it. It's used for commercial entertainment. Television coverage, it's a key factor in growth and expansion. The amount of money that is out there, in television rights for major conferences in college or the dominant professional sports organizations, the money that changes hands with the rights to cover the sporting events is tremendous. So, have commercial sports sold out to the media? Research says probably not, and the reasons for that are there's going to be commercial interests without media, regardless. So, the only thing media does is just intensify those commercial interests by commercials, commercial sponsors, things of that nature. And then the other point, the sport organizations typically aren't denying this or giving pushback to the television networks. It's hand in hand. The amount of money, look at that wealth piece, that power piece, the money that's involved, it's too much to turn down. So sport organizations typically, accept these changes. So has media corrupted sports? Research again, probably not, for two reasons. Sports aren't shaped by the media. The media helps a little bit, but sports are shaped by many other things that we'll discuss throughout this course. And media, there are restrictions. There are regulations by the government. You can argue on either side, are the regulations too much? Are they not enough? But there are regulations. So the media is required to follow certain standards. Again, whether you believe those standards are not enough or too much, that's a different opinion, different topic. So, do media depend on sports? Most media, they do not. You see that bullet point about daily newspapers there and the sports sections. They're using that for circulation numbers and ad revenues. And with the disappearance of many small market newspapers It's the expansion, I guess, and access of the news. You don't have to go to the daily newspaper like when I was growing up, when my parents were growing up. And then television companies use sports just to fill their programming schedule and get demographic demographics that typically might not watch their network. It draws them, and then it draws sponsors who want to hit those demographics as well. So the relationship, it's a strong relationship for commercial sports, but if you're not one of those top tier sports, there's really not that strong of a relationship because it's business based. You see it promoting lifestyle, the consumption, and ideologies that support such lifestyles. So if you can make money off of it, and it supports a lifestyle, promotes a lifestyle, and gets you to consume products with that ideology or that support the lifestyle, well, then you're going to have a strong relationship. So other aspects that we need to look at with sports and media relationship is the decision-making power. Okay, typically male executives who love sports are making these decisions. Those values, their experiences are embedded in the culture of that organization, that corporation. And the sports that emphasize competition, domination, and achievement, well, these male executives, they feel that they're crucial, and those, you talk about that, do sports impact your life? Well, these executives feel that those are some qualities we want in our organization, so we're going to use our money to sponsor these sports because it represents what we as a corporation hold true, hold important as far as our value system. So a lot of ideological themes and messages that we see out there. Success is one theme, the big play, big hit, sacrificing yourself for the team's success, consumption, all the sponsorships, the different, this game is presented to you by such and such. Everything has a label to it. Think about the bowl games. It's not just the Rose Bowl. There's, it's sponsored by a corporation. Gender, masculinity rules in the media sports. You see that 6-1. It privileges men over women 6-1. Those dominant ideologies are reproduced in the coverage about manhood, but can challenge the ideas about femininity. So think about the sports that you watch, you consume. What are the messages they're putting out there? If someone's acting manly, they're fitting that ideological role of that sport. But if they are not doing their typical role and showing some femininity, what's going on there? Consequences. There's barely any research on the audience experience, but we know your identity can be created from watching sports. You're with a group. It's that social piece. It's hard to get research on this, but we know it's integrated into social relationships and your social network. Okay, there's a positive link to active participation if the media represents those representations, are strategically connected to an everyday life routine. Betting on sports is huge, and the access that we're allowed now with all the technologies we've discussed, I've talked about, and as long as the betting doesn't lead to that fixing, you've heard about those events, then it just increases the consumption. Big screen technology, more people can get one place, that socialization piece, to be around their favorite team. World Cup, for example, here. What I want you to understand that the primary goal of televised sports is to hype the event and entertain the audiences. So if you haven't already thought about that, that's the take home from here. Realize the representation or the representation of the information is from a producer and a corporation. Social constructions. That's what media is all about. Thanks for watching. Complete your assignment. See you next class.